The events of the Sunday before Easter point us to the fact that Jesus was a nonviolent revolutionary who wanted everyone, without exclusion, to experience a better story. And he was willing to give everything for a better story, including his life for his people. And this reminds me of, I was already in my third quarter at UC Santa Barbara back in 1972 when I turned 18. And I mentioned this Wednesday night. And I went to the table on campus to register to vote. And for anybody who was around in that era, you know, it was an electric time. Lots of possibility, lots of activism. And I looked at the sheet, and there were numerous options. And I was not interested in Democrat or Republican as I registered. And I had kind of a fondness for the Students for a Democratic Society. And there was the Peace and Freedom Party, which really was an anti-war thing, but they recognized that you could not oppress people in other countries if you were doing it in this country. So instead of being the Peace Party, they became the Peace and Freedom Party. But, you know, I wrote in Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party for self-defense was not committed to nonviolence. And we seem to know more about the civil rights movement, the Nation of Islam, Brother Malcolm's Organization of Afro-American Unity. But at the time, J. Edgar Hoover back in 1968 said that the Black Panther Party, without question, represents the greatest threat to the internal security of the country. And one reason it was such a threat is because so many other organizations found common cause. Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers, white leftists and anti-war activists, international allies, including China's Mao Zedong. At one point, the Black Panther Party had 68 branches around the United States, and they were active in many prisons. They had several international chapters. And like I said, the Panthers had no commitment to nonviolence. And yet the end game was not more chaos and destruction, but a better world, particularly for poor people. That's why you kept hearing the words, power to the people. On our campuses in that era, radicalism was in the air. So I was proud to register to vote when I turned 18. I did not, however, register for the draft. And then a year later, at age 19, I re-entered church life. And in time, I was politically neutered. Our Black Pentecostal church very likely saved my life. This loving community, that's a whole other story. But you know, this was something that I needed in my life. However, we were enclosed in the world of thoughts and prayers. Now, most, but not all churches of God in Christ were as inactive as ours. Most were inactive, but not all. I mean, one of our churches hosted in New York the funeral of Malcolm X. One of our churches in Oakland hosted a number of funerals of Black men gunned down by police violence. The last speech that Martin Luther King ever made in Memphis was at one of our churches, but not us. I changed, but I changed in ways that were not necessary. I even changed the music that I listened to. I gave up The Last Poets, and Gil Scott-Heron and Marvin Gaye for church music. Some would have said I gave up ungodly music for godly music. And don't get me wrong, we had some good music in church. I mean, some of the people that came on the scene, Billboard top performers came out of our churches, like Sly and the Family Stone. In fact, he learned how to play in the Church of God in Christ in San Francisco. His uncle was Bishop Stewart. But we did not talk about Jesus as a societal change agent. We did not recognize the need for revolution. And you cannot ask the people who hold power why there's a need for revolution. For them, the status quo is just fine. And in Jesus's time, the Roman state was peaceful. But whenever the state is peaceful, you have to look closely, because someone had to absorb the impact of state violence in order for the elites to enjoy their peace. So if you want to know if a revolution is desired, needed, you have to ask the people who feel like a revolution is needed. And so in my youth, that included Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale and Stokely Carmichael and Angela Davis and Elaine Brown and Fred Hampton and Eldridge Cleaver and George Jackson and Mia Abu Jamal. They inspired young people like me, and they helped us find our pride, our dignity. I didn't know that much about them. We didn't have an internet or anything. And of course, the media was not going to be covering a lot of this in any helpful way. So we mostly learned by word of mouth, but we could feel something in the air. And the Black Panther movement is what inspired us to wear our hair long and to hold our fists up in solidarity. Many of us wore black berets and black leather jackets. I know Shella's on here. I don't know if you had one, but I know your brother wore his, Floyd wore his black leather jacket and his beret all the time. So we're gonna hear some music. And in this first song, we hear the plea and the demand for change because we need it. And the second song reminds us again that we need a better story. We need a new song.